That's great.
So I mean, and then we did some research, and it's like, how do you decide whether you can do an IP for it, an
Yeah.
intellectual property? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, well, the way I look at it is if you have provide a service that is more than just taking orders. Like
yeah,
say if you do something that's creative or something that's complex, that really requires, kind of an elevated level of expertise, then you have some intellectual property there, even if you haven't figured it out yet. And so like, for instance, you provide management consulting services. And clients come, they say, I have this problem, you write a proposal and you send it out. And then you do the work and you hand in the deliverables and you're like, okay, I don't have any assets because I just, but, let's say you've been doing it, for the last 15 years and you've been working with, particular type of client. So what you have is like this reservoir of information about a type of client, about an industry, about, maybe you have a specific, expertise, and you have this reservoir of information that can be used to create a product from. So whether it's, some sort of information product like a book, or it could be something that's more dynamic, like a subscription newsletter. You could, I've worked with if you've worked with a number of CVEOs, maybe you do a curated, kind of mastermind. There are all sorts of things that you can use your expertise like to create an asset. I like to use the term asset better than IP because they might not be IP, but you can still have an asset without it being IP. And that you can use that would be something that is not just in your head and that would be, transferable.
Yeah. I want to talk with you for hours about the different types of assets that people might have. And I'm sure, some of the work that I'm doing, I've coined this word sociosomatic dynamics, and it's very original. And so I know, and I actually got it trademarked at one point, but I let that kind of slide. So that's another story. But what I want to do, because we're doing like an introduction and how to do that, I want to know, so how do you find your clients, and give me sort of, they talk about an avatar, like what's your ideal client? What is the pain or the problem that they need to solve? Why do they come to you?
Yeah, so my ideal client is the B2B professional services provider who has a mature business, but has not been using the lens of exit. It's a good income generator. But if they ever want to exit, and you're going to exit one way or another someday, right? Yeah. Is that going to be, are you going to have something that you're going to be able to sell, or are you just going to close down shop? I mean, the options are closing down shop, just selling your book of business, which would just be, some fraction of what you have already sold. Mm-hmm. Or will you have some sort of asset that is more valuable in the hands of an acquirer that they're willing to pay for? And so as most people will come to, well, not most people, my ideal client will kind of figure out like, well, wait a minute, like I don't have a plan in place for making sure I'm building something, that I'm actually building something as opposed to just churning out results, which is all very good, but that's different than, so that is my ideal client.
And, so it's interesting. So when I was looking on social media, one of the things that I do is strategic planning, and my current focus has been exit. I'm in a networking group, and there are about 5 to 7 older people. And I keep talking about, are you just working your day to day, or are you thinking the future, and you're thinking about how am I going to exit? What's the value I'm bringing? All those sorts of things. And so in that way, we have a similar client base, you've got people who, first of all, they've got to say, oh my gosh, maybe I do need to think about exit planning.
Yes.
And then you've got, what are my assets? How can I create a sellable package, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got your financial planning. You've got to think about your retirement. And then, you've got me who's saying, you know what? It's really not that scary to think about an exit plan. you wouldn't go on a vacation without planning, right? So why would your business be any different? And I can say to them, most business owners spend less time planning their future than they do their vacation. And
That's
I saw
shocking.
your
Yeah,
eyes
because that makes wow, yes, yes, it's hard, because your time that we call, our work time is spent like client work, the things, the urgencies, those things that have to get done, and does exit planning is that ever urgent? I mean, until you want to exit.
Until it's too late, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then someone else is planning your exit for
exactly.
you, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly.
All right. So now in our networking, we've discovered that we have similar clients. We provide we provide services to the same client. And so the next step is, how do we collaborate? How do we refer to each other in order to help our clients get to the next level? So I bet that you have clients that they know they need to do exit planning. They might have an asset, but they're just not moving along. They're kind of sitting, and you give them a call, and then they kind of like, oh yeah, and then they go back, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that they haven't thought that they need an exit plan. I mean, part of what I'm doing, and you did ask about my source of leads, is like educating on LinkedIn, like say thought leadership. That's I hang out on LinkedIn mostly, and I think they kind of have assumed that a service-based business can't be sold, because there's a lot of them aren't. I mean, there's a small number that are sold, and because most of them don't have assets, and so they kind of just thought that they won't sell. And so there is kind of that, right now I'm doing a series on assets are everywhere to make people like understand, like they really are there. So, so they have, the light bulb has gone off that, yes, I need to start thinking about exit planning, and I don't have a plan. Yes. So, yeah.
So awesome.
Mm-hmm,
awesome. Yeah. And so for me, from